الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. As you know, brothers and sisters, the war between Israel and Iran, it continues. It's now could be beginning of the second week. Iran took a lot of hits and still is taking a lot of hits. It lost some of its scientists and generals. The Americans, with the use of Israelis, they are trying to go after what's known as Fardo nuclear site. At least the objective that is being told to us is stopping Iran from gaining access to nuclear power, nuclear weapons. The other thing also, which is very clear, is it could also be regime change. There's a lot of geopolitical maneuvering that is taking place. Asim Munir, who is the Chief Marshal of Pakistan, he's also here in Florida. He's having a lot of meetings with Trump and others. Not everything is clear, but one thing is that they may be asking for a base in Pakistan if Americans have to put boots on the table. Americans have given Iran 2 weeks. Then they will make a decision how they will proceed. But both sides are taking hits, and there's a lot to discuss in the middle. So inshallah, to discuss all of this, we have our brother Dr. Talha, who's been on this show many a times, discussing regional politics analysis, both from a geopolitical perspective and also, of course, Islamic perspective. And we love to have him here because he's a unique voice, especially since he lives in the region. He is in and out of the region. He lives in, he writes, speaks, he discusses many of these things both online and in public. Again, Dr. Abu Talha, welcome to Islamic Oasis Live, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me again, Brother Shirazi.
So, Dr. Abu Talha, this preemptive attack, this is very interesting because preemption, from my perspective, means obviously there's no UN in this, there's no human rights in this, there is no MPT in this, there is no IAEA or anybody in this thing, because preemptive means none of these organizations matter. And what's the game plan, Sheikh? I mean, to hit Iran in this way, and that's number one. And number two, was Iran really caught such off guard, Sheikh, that it took a very heavy loss, and it's taking losses, but at the same time, fine, it's returning some of it back, but at the same time, this type of stupidity that they were able to not see what's coming, Sheikh?
Well, first of all, Assalamu alaikum one more time, and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulih al-Kareem. I just want to say that any loss that Iran has, whether it's in human losses or material or military, that's a loss for the entire Ummah. That's a continuation of the aggression of the entity called Israel against Muslims. So it's not against the Palestinians only or the people in Gaza, but it's against all. Unfortunately, the people, especially those who are in the position of leadership in the Muslim world, they do not understand that, or they do not take it seriously, and they do not realize that this entity called Israel can hit anyone at any time if they have any glimpse of thought that some potential danger that comes from there. I will not be surprised that they would make some strikes against Egypt or even against Pakistan. The other day, Pakistan mentioned that Iran will not be left alone in this dilemma. We're in direct support. We will support Iran. So that statement in itself, it could mean
the potential
that it's a potential. So for Pakistan to wait until they get hit, that is unacceptable. That's bad. exactly what you mentioned about Iran. Iran has been listening to the news or to the statements coming from the occupying state of Palestine about the Iranian nuclear capabilities or potential capabilities for ages. And even the day or the night when they were hit, it took them about 18 hours to come back. That's bad. That's not acceptable. Saying that, at least from the perspective of Iran, that was a late response. That's one. Number two, I just want to emphasize that as far as the state called Israel is concerned, Israel does not want to see any other hegemon state in the area. It wants to be the only and unique hegemon state with the nuclear capabilities. And this state called Israel is vulnerable. They understand they are vulnerable. That state is absolutely alien to the entire Middle East. It was created on the expense of people who used to live in Palestine, and they were evicted at least 3 times. One time in 1948 and 1967, and now the eviction is going on in the West Bank and in Gaza. So they know that they are living at the expense of people who live there. So it's an alien state. Now, in order to sustain their existence and their capabilities to survive as a state and as a nation, they have to make sure that they are the one and only one power that can, at any point of time, can strike and can actually become a real threat, knowing that Israel is a nuclear state. It has obtained nuclear weapons long time ago. The first time they got it, it was through France and then through Britain, and then the US supported them. So they know that, and everybody knows that. So they use this particular part, that the only state that can have nuclear weapon must be the state of Israel. Israel does not have any grievance against Iran or the Iranian people. They never had any type of conflict or war, although there were rhetorics from both sides all the time. But in reality, this was not, should not have come to this point of aggression, except at the time when the occupying state in Palestine realized that Iran is only a few inches away from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Although Iran continues to say, no, we don't. But the fact that they are insisting on enriching the uranium, which they have exceeded the 60% limit, and they became so close to the limit where they can actually build nuclear bombs. Although, on my own opinion, which I'm not quoting anyone, I don't think Israel would have attacked in this manner that we see until and unless they have some type of intelligence information that the Iranians are not 30% away from the obtaining the nuclear weapon, maybe much smaller gap. So I think that's what they have. So the whole issue is, who is going to dominate? Israel does not want anyone to dominate but them. Iran did not choose to be a dominant country, but United States, when it talks about the stability of the Middle East, that we want a new Middle East that is secure, stable, both geopolitically and ideologically. When they talk about that, they need some type of equivalent powers, because stability does not occur if only one state has the so-called strategic capabilities like nuclear. That defies the notion of stability. So every time America talks about stability, it means within that statement that it has to be self-stable, meaning no power in the Middle East shall have an extremely overpower the other countries. So they need self-stability, and that means if Israel has a nuclear weapon, there has to be one more state in the Middle East that has the nuclear capabilities. And this is the only one that can have that. It has to have some criteria. If you think about it, Egypt would never be allowed. It's too close to the state of Israel. Saudi Arabia would not be allowed. After all, again, there is more than one reason for the state of Saudi Arabia, if it ever had that, to destabilize the region against the occupying state. The only one that could have that is Iran. And America worked on the Iranian case since 1972. That's not now. Since the Nixon-Shah agreement in 1972, America had made sure that this country, Iran, can play a pivotal role in the Middle East to become a stabilizing force, to become a power that can do an equilibrium in the area. And actually, there are several studies that came up, and I think I talked about this in the past at this show, that the so-called the new stable Middle East would have, from the American perspective, Israel, Iran, and Turkey. And Turkey, those three countries can be part of the so-called Middle East Security Council or Middle East Alliance or Middle East Stabilizing Force. There are different names that are given to this one, but the most prominent name is the Middle East Security Council. And Iran is part of that, and Israel knows that. Although
here's the thing. I mean, we'll come down to the geopolitics of this, but so when I'm looking at it from, let's say, bird's eye view here, is the issue really Iran or is it China, Sheikh?
No, look, America, let me talk from American perspective. America definitely makes a very red, hard line between regional conflicts and worldwide international conflicts. International conflicts are the ones that make changes to the world order. And China belongs there. China belongs to the world scale politics, if you will. Regional powers, just like now the Middle East, which includes Turkey, Iran, and Israel, and the Arab countries, and North Africa, this is regional. Other region is like Latin America, other region like in Africa itself. Now there is another region, which is the Indo-Pakistani, although China can belong to that region from one side, but from the other side, China is international. But China will never be brought into the game in the Middle East. This is the game of nations that put these things on the table. Middle East does not even include the Russian politics or Chinese politics. They might be pulled in order to stabilize a region, but not to cause a conflict. So China is not part of the conflict, although China can be pulled in order to make the Middle East stable. What does this mean? It means China would probably supply Iran with some support so that Iran cannot be demolished. America does not want Iran to be demolished and does not want Israel to be demolished. But America wants both Iran and Israel to understand that they cannot cancel one another. So they better come to the table together. And that, if you want some analogy, I was searching something. In 1973, there was a big war between Egypt and Israel. Now, of course, Syria was dragged in, but the real war was between Egypt and Israel. That's when Egypt was able to overcome the Barley Wall and to destroy it, and actually to march through Sinai, and was very close to actually crack down on the whole state called Israel state. And then there was a peace treaty. There was a ceasefire And eventually, these two countries had to sign a peace treaty in Camp David in a few years. So and that's, I'm talking now how America looks at situations. For Israel and Iran to come to the conclusion, both of them, that they must sign some type of a treaty and accept one another in the area, this type of war is necessary. Now, Iran understands that. That's why Iran is very, very careful in its responses.
Yeah, it's being very careful as far as civilians are concerned. I mean, 50, 60,
as far as civilians, as far as the target
infrastructure.
Like the other day, they targeted Bir al-Saba, one city. Dimona, where the nuclear arsenal of Israel is in Dimona, which is only a few miles or a few tens of kilometers from Bir al-Saba, they were not targeted. And Iran until now does not even talk about targeting these facilities. However, because Iran does accept to be one of triangle, Turkey, Iran, Israel, and maybe Saudi Arabia. Israel doesn't accept that. Israel wants to be the one and only one. And that's the nature of the Jewish state in Palestine. That's their nature. They want to be the only one who can decide what is right, what's wrong, when to strike, and when to stop. So now, after this war, which I think, now I could be wrong, but the events will prove that in a few days, that the United States, in order to achieve their regional objective of a stable Middle East, a Middle East that has peace, no change in its politics or ideology, the geo-ideological politics, not only geo-ideological politics, to say all the same. In order to do that, they need the rivals here to be almost equivalent. But Israel does not accept that.
But Sheikh, how you're saying, okay, Israel, hold on, Sheikh. So is this independent Israeli foreign policy, or is there a change now in America? Is that whose policy? I mean, according to what you're saying, American foreign policy is.
Israel wants to sketch the ground with its own pen. Now, that defies what America wants. And in my opinion, that's why America allowed this war to take place between Iran and Israel. So at the end of the day, Israel will understand for real that it does not have what it takes to eliminate the Iranian power. And then they have to come to settle down on peace. That's why I brought the example of Egypt and Israel. Now, they had to fight a real war, because before 1973, they never fought a real war. Not in 1967, not in 1948. 73, they did. And Israel realized that without having a final peace treaty with this country called Egypt, we cannot guarantee our own existence.
But
similarly today is what's happening. Yes, go ahead.
But doesn't that okay, look, Sheikh, one of the things that happened after many of the wars between, the Arab-Israeli war, the 6-Day War, the 65, 67, 72, one of the things that happened was that it was shown as if Israel was undefeatable.
Except in 1973. See, 1973,
Egypt, the one you're discussing, on the issue of Egypt.
Israel, in fact, I remember I listened to a lecture by Netanyahu, the current prime minister. He came to University of Illinois, I think back in 1983, 84. At the time, he was ambassador to the Jewish state in Washington. And he explicitly mentioned that 1973 was a war that taught Israel a very big lesson, that it could be eliminated in a blink of an eye. That's what he said. And I still remember, he said, the path was, or the road was wide open for the Syrian troops to march into Haifa, which is the northern of Israel, and the Egyptian troops were absolutely, the road was wide open for Tel Aviv, except now the United States interfered with what's called unstopped supply of weapons from America to Israel in order to stop that. So this was a lesson that Israel learned that time, that look, I cannot be the superpower regionally. Now after that, now they gained the nuclear power, and now they don't want Iran to be the other Egypt next door. Now Egypt was next door, does not need nuclear weapons. All it needs Egypt is to ask the army to march in, and they can. Today they can. Actually, today the Egyptian army can march in and can threaten the existence of Israel. They understand that, but they secured a peace treaty with them, and they know that it's deeply engraved in the mentality of the Egyptians. So today, it's repeating itself, this issue. Israel thought and continues to think that they can prevent Iran from being a stabilizing force for Israel.
But that
America
means Iran.
says,
But does that mean Iran has to play, a police role also in the Middle East then?
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. That's what America wants. America wants Iran, Turkey, and Israel to play the role of a police. And they want Saudi Arabia to be the one who finances that, because these guys, they need money. So Saudi and the Gulf, they would finance the whole issue of the police, and the police stations are these three big countries. Well, two big countries, and Israel is made to look big, but it's not. Israel is the most vulnerable in the Middle East.
That's what I was going to ask, Sheikh. But no matter which way this goes, Israel can never become a dominant force in the region. Sheikh, now, look, you have Pakistan, you have Iran, you have Turkey. Sheikh, what is Israel thinking right now? Let's say from that perspective, is Israel saying? It's Netanyahu is taking trips to the US, asking anytime you can please just walk in here. They're giving them 2 weeks. They're saying they may use the bunker busting missile that they're looking at, about 30,000 pounds or something like this, that they might drop on Fordo nuclear site and things like this. Is Israel saying, okay, we learned the lesson, it's time for you to intervene now? Or what is this? Because 2 weeks could mean half of Israel could be destroyed.
Yes, look, again, this is how I look at it from the time the United States started working on Iran and getting Iran under the sphere of influence of America.
Is that from 79? Are you saying from the Iranian Revolution?
No, it 72. Was actually before the revolution.
Okay, so that could even, is that Mossadegh time, after Mossadegh?
No, way after Mossadegh. It was during the Shah. The Mossadegh time, America only gained some access to the oil resources in Iran. Right. That's all. That's number one. Number two, they got some access to have Iran to be anti-communist, anti-Soviet, because Iran is on the border of the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union, all they had to do to come to the Gulf and dominate the whole area, Middle East, is to cross Iran. But 1972, it was very critical. Nixon was able to strike a deal with the Shah. And that deal is to provide Iran with the most sophisticated weapons of the time, to train the Iranian army and the Savak and the intelligence, and to actually flood Iran with very large number of officers under the name of training and overseeing the situation so that the Soviets will not attack Iran. But in reality, that infiltration allowed and enabled, when the revolution took place in 1979, General Huizer, he was dispatched by Carter in order to convince the Iranian generals not to interfere in the affairs of the revolution and not to suppress the people in the streets. And that is when the generals came with the announcement that revolution is between the people and the Shah, and we are not concerned. So America started working on Iran long time before the arrival of Khomeini. But when the Khomeini arrived, it was almost ready. So that's when they looked at Iran as a very pivotal country in the area. And it was a big success. And America used Iran indirectly with this all so-called anti-American slogans, etc. That's politics. But in reality, America was able to defeat two rivals in Iran. Number one, the Soviets, who were counting on the Communist Party Tudeh in Iran. That's number one. Number two, the British influence, which was very dominant in Iran until the Shah was overthrown. So now America has one big country in the area, which they preserved that country until today. And today, America wants this Middle East, and if you look at all the spectrum of the talks from the time the Gaza war began, and even before that, you will see talks about the stability in the Middle East, secure Middle East, the region to be stable. All of these terms, they were not famous before 7th of October 2023, although they were known for politicians and those people who follow the politics and look at the details. But now it's on the tongue of almost everyone. Netanyahu is talking about the stability in the Middle East. Turkey is talking about the regional stability. Saudi Arabia is talking about that. America is talking about it. Everybody is talking about it. Now, what is stability? Stability means things will remain as is. No one can disturb that. No one can change it. What changes can happen? Well, the geography can change. And today America is changing the geography before we arrive at the stability. The political alliances can change. So today we want to stabilize them once and for all. Ideological stability, it means a rise of a new ideology like Islam and the Khilafah in the area. That can happen. We don't want that. America doesn't want that. They want this. Now we have to reformulate the Middle East. And we talk about Middle East now. Remember, Pakistan is not Middle East. You mentioned Pakistan is part of the Indochina region. And Pakistan is neutralized by India. And India is neutralized by China. That was done again. Once India was able to obtain the nuclear power, within a couple of years, Pakistan was granted the ability to gain power. Natural neutralization, stability. That's how the big boss works. Today, if we want a stable Middle East, there is no way in the world that this will be stable if one of these states is a zombie state that cannot be controlled, like Israel, because it has the nuclear power. And that's why we see that Iran is insisting. Now, I just want to mention for our audience, some people, they think, oh, but Trump has put a very strong block against Iranian nuclear capabilities. This is absolutely false statement, absolutely. In 2018, during the Trump first era, Trump gave Iran the biggest chance ever they had in their lifespan to enrich uranium without any investigation or without any type of inspection. 2015, there was the treaty that was signed during the Obama time, which was the treaty or the agreement. It's called the agreement. By that agreement, Iran was under the continuous investigation by the IAEA, which is the International Agency of Atomic.
IAEA, yeah.
So they were under investigation, and the experts, they were coming back and forth to Iran, and they had the right to go into Firud, into Asfahan, into all of these nuclear bases. 2018, Trump came and said, I don't accept that. We'll stop that agreement. What does that mean? It means it gave Iran the time to do whatever it wants with their accelerators.
So Iran couldn't do it, Sheikh? Is that what Iran just did not?
They were under continuous inspection. And when you are under continuous inspection, when you have some regulations that you cannot enrich uranium beyond, let's say, 40%, that's all you need for your electric
grids. I guess I thought they needed 60%.
No, 60 was
that's centrifuge.
Beyond. Yes, that was above and beyond, and the heavy water is above and beyond. For their electric systems, which they already had it in Asfahan and other places, way before they reached the 60%. They reached 60% and beyond in the last 4 years or 5 years.
Yeah, some are saying close to 85%.
Yeah,
especially now in Farud.
All of this, it was Trump who gave them that power to do that. When he stopped the work by agreement, Iran did not receive any inspector. No one can inspect their facilities.
Right.
So that by itself, it shows that this current president, who's talking big a lot, he is the one who provided Iran with the capability and with the space to move and do whatever they want with their nuclear facilities. He gave them since 2018 until today, 7 years. 7 years.
So you're saying that, okay, so let me, Sheikh, so did they really need this war? I mean, it's a preemptive war. It's preemptive. Israel attacked.
No, Israel attacked, brother. Look, Israel were encouraged to attack. They were left almost in big limbo regarding this new Middle East with Iran being rival. Israel does not accept.
I understand that. I understand that. I mean, let's say, okay.
So to them, it doesn't matter whether America wants a new stable Middle East or not. Israel wants to be in the area that can, at any point of time, expand, carry aggression against any country it wants, and to show that it can survive on its own by itself. No one can threaten the existence of Israel, and that's why they call it's existential. That means their existence is at stake, which is true. They understand that. Israel understands very clearly that its existence is at stake at any point of time. The existence of the state of Israel can be threatened by small countries just like Jordan or Syria or Lebanon. They understand that. Mm. So that's why they want to maintain an edge all the time. Now, although America accepts that, but America says your existence will be guaranteed not by the fact that you are the only power that overwhelms everyone else. Your existence can be guaranteed through a consortium in the area that will not allow any change in the politics and the geopolitics of the area, which includes Israel. That's what Americans' philosophy. Philosophy is we can't allow a region to be dominated by one entity at any point of time, like in Latin America. Imagine if Brazil or Argentina or Chile would become a zombie that no one can overcome. Then America has to intervene itself, just like today, which they say we want to use our fleets or whatever in order to stabilize the region. So the issue here, this war, I think Israel had no choice but to make it. They thought that we will be able to do whatever it takes to reduce the nuclear capabilities of Iran to minimal, and if that does not happen, we should be able to drag the foot of the United States to hell. So they are counting on two things.
So let me ask you this, Sheikh. So let's say, I mean, look, we named this this show America First. That's what we put it up, saying America First. And one of the reasons, of course, there is a lot that's going on in the U.S. American, of course, internally, there's no one for war with Iran. Even the Trump base, mega. I mean, now they're coming up with new one, which is MAGA. I think it's saying
America First.
I mean, do you know how they were saying mega? That was something, you know, making America great again. But now they're saying making Israel
make
great
America
again.
First again.
Yeah. This is another one now, making Israel great again. This is another one they're coming up with because people are against what's happening. They don't want war with Iran. Okay, so now here's the thing. Let me draw a scenario too, Sheikh. Soviet Union falls apart, 1992. Let's say it ends. But the United States uses Afghanistan to destabilize Afghanistan, to even, let's say, to completely, at one point, it removes at least from the region. Is there a possibility if United States is dragged into this war? Dragging into this war means actually putting boots on the ground. Let's say if that's the scenario, they actually put boots on the ground. I mean, we know the U.S. history in Afghanistan. We know the U.S. history in Iraq and Soviet Union history in Afghanistan. Can China actually use, if these guys do go into Iran, can China use this? I guess what I'm saying is, can these events become Soviet scenario for America?
Yeah. Look, let's make clear. China will never be dragged into any physical militant warfare.
No, it doesn't have to actually fight. It just has to provide.
Now, providing, China understands the realities very well, more than me or you. They understand. Providing Iran, for example, with a strategic edge over Israel may not fall within the Chinese international politics, because China understands that once they do something that go beyond the China involvement and role,
traditional China.
Yeah, that would put them in direct conflict, military conflict with the United States. They don't want that. China, the last thing they want is that. Now, if China today supplies Iran with any types of edge strategic weapons, you have to understand that they have a green light from the big boss. They must have a green light, which means and that falls within the American politics. American politics does not want one country in the Middle East to dominate the rest. That is the essence of a stable Middle East. And that, as I mentioned, now Israel is the only one that has the edge, supposedly. I believe Iran is already there. I wholeheartedly believe Iran, through the last 5 or 6 years, was able to reach a stage where they can be comfortable militarily. And that's what Israel also thinks. That's why Israel wants to do the hit before things go out of hand. Now, if America sees that Iran is no longer capable of teaching Israel a lesson that, look, you cannot achieve everything you want with power, and that's the whole issue of what's the war now that's happening between these two countries. Because if you look at it, these strikes back and forth, there will not be a winner. There will be some damages. We killed more people, we wounded more people, we destroyed more buildings, less buildings. That's going to happen. But eventually, Israel cannot eliminate Iran out of the picture. Iran will not eliminate Israel out of the picture. It's obvious, which means
unless the US gets in.
Even if the US gets in, the US will make it look that we normalized Iran, and that means Israel now stop, don't interfere. We will take care of that. But United States will know what to do with the Iran.
So is there such thing as regime change in Iran?
A regime change in Iran has been happening since the Khatami came into power,
Right.
which is called the correctionist or the moderate ones. And then the new president is happening here. Now the overall face of the
I
Iranian...
guess regime change, they mean the removal of Wilayat al-Faqih.
Yeah, that's possible. That is possible. It's possible. I don't think it's on the table. It's not on the table to do that, but that's possible because the Wilayat al-Faqih has actually done whatever it was brought to do. They have served big thing in the area. They made changes at the time when they were needed in Syria. They did whatever they needed in Lebanon, in Yemen. Now, with the new Middle East, there is no need for this type of sectarian Shia type of rule. That's no longer needed, I think. So they might change that, not because of the issue of the all Middle East and Israel, but because that particular role for the Wilayat al-Faqih and the Islamic Republic, it completed its mission. The mission is complete. Today, Iran has a different mission. And this mission is purely political, as being a stabilizing force together with Turkey and Israel for the entire Middle East. I don't think if there is a change for the regime, it's going to happen internally. It will not happen by force from outside. It can
No, but hold on, Sheikh. So if there is an attack by the Americans, which you are saying, let's say if there is, and there is a regime change, because that's the only thing I can think of. If America is going to go in, it's going to go in with the idea of regime change, unless they attack one of the nuclear sites. So let's say they do go in, there is a regime change, but the Iranians are willing to accept that. They will accept that a government installed by Israeli American.
If that's the case, which is a scenario that I don't accept. I don't think that's what will happen. But at any point of time, if there is a forced regime change from outside, that will have to rely on the so-called underground or invisible secular entities that actually they were used at the time of Khomeini to structure the government, like Bani Sadr, Bazargan, Qutbzadeh, Rafsanjani, and there are many of them. These are the ones that very famous ones. But there are hundreds or thousands of these leaders, and we have seen some of them come to the presidency, like the current president, like Khatami
Ahmadinejad, I think.
and Ahmadinejad. All of these, they are there. So it's not going to look as if, like in Iraq, when Bremer actually brought the government.
I mean, because the Israelis are asking the people to come out on the streets, do demonstrations.
Sure.
I mean, but none of this is. You're saying these are.
No, I think now the issue is not the regime change. What really, in my opinion, when I talk about my opinion about the politics, I would think that what if I were in the shoes of Trump or Biden? How do I want to stabilize the Middle East? Today, Iran is a big country. Number one, it's not an Arab country. So that's the synergy between Arabs and Persians is minimal. It's not part of the Sunni, which is the majority of the area. So that makes it suitable to be a stabilizing force. Turkey is, again, it's not homogeneous with the rest of the nations from the nationalist perspective. It is very secular to the bones. It is the one that eliminated Khilafah, and Turkey is the last one to be interested in bringing Khilafah back, because they will prove that for the last 100 years they were absolutely wrong, and that's not going to happen from the Turkish. So Turkey can be used, and Israel, of course, because Israel is an alien country in the region. It's neither Arab, it's Jewish and Israelis, and it was brought by force. So these three elements, from the American perspective, can make a stable Middle East. In other words, a stable means if any country would try to make some changes, which is possible, like we saw in the Arab Spring, there could be some changes. Now there could be some changes in Egypt and Algeria and Tunis, in Syria and Iraq. Some people will make, let's say, a revolution or a military coup and bring a new regime, a new ideology, like Islam, like Khilafah, or like anything else. It's possible. Who's going to interfere? United States will come and interfere every time that happens. Now they will have this council or this alliance, these three countries who have deep interest to make sure that nothing like what I have said comes into reality. So that's why Iran is a strategic element. It has to remain. Israel is a strategic element, and Turkey is a strategic element. And these three countries are given the mandate, will be given the mandate in a form of a council or alliance or whatever. As I said, there are many names of it. I just searched the names. There are at least 4 names were given to this type of consortium between these 3 top countries. From the American perspective, US perspective, to have a stable Middle East, a Middle East that we can guarantee the flow of resources without any interruption, oil, gas, minerals from this area, and the wealth, just like we have seen coming from the Arab Gulf states to Trump. That flow of wealth and resources to the West in general and to America in particular, it needs to come naturally, without any interruption, without any thinking of interruption. Any interruption of that, who's going to take care of it? The alliance. Any interruption from the ideological perspective, rise of a new ideological state, call it Khilafah, call it Islamic State, call it whatever you want, that is a big interruption. Who's going to stand up against it? America is not going to do that every time that happens. It's painful. Let's have these 3 countries. The only one who doesn't like that, in fact, I was reading an article in the Foreign Affairs that came on June 10th, about 7 days ago or 10 days ago, talking about this issue that there needs to be some stability in this area And who is going to stabilize this area? Addressing this point explicitly in the foreign affairs. Now, from the perspective of America, if I have a self-stable region, which is the most important, significant region in the whole world as a region, there is no other region that has the similarity of the Middle East as a region. Because, as I said, Middle East, the history, just go 100 years before, this Middle East was almost one unit, a big unit, strong unit. Add to it the resources that came out of the Middle East. More than 70% of the energy resources are in the Middle East, in this area. And the ideology that lives in the Middle East under the ground, which is Islam, is there all the time. You can never count on the fact that this Islam is buried once and for all. And we know that as a fact. We know the movements. We know that even in Jordan, they stopped the Ikhwan Muslimin, the Brotherhood. We know that that does not eliminate the power of Islam and the internal one. We know that it's in Egypt. We know it's in Iraq. We know it's in Syria today, despite the fact that Jolani or Ashara trying to put a different look. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that he can do it because there is a very heated ideology there. America cannot supervise that or make a surveillance 24 hours, 365 days a year. They cannot do that. So they came up with this issue. Let's have internally from the Middle East, these three big countries, let them take care of that. Now, who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like that? Yeah, exactly. Now, who doesn't like, the only one who doesn't like this is Israel. Why?
Okay, look, so one can say, okay, hold on. Look, I'm going to draw, there's two scenarios in my mind. I just want you to look at it. But one of them here is that when you're saying Israel, look, Sheikh, the most unstable factor in the Middle East is Israel.
The most destabilizing factor, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The most unstable. True. It's unstable, it's and destabilizing force.
Yes.
Is Israel and United States, but you're saying US wants Israel because it balances, let's say it's for balancing. Fine, let's go with this. But Sheikh, the nature of Israel is destabilizing. It doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't.
Because you know why? Why? Because in the ideology of Israel, in their mentality, there is the expansionism. Israel.
That's what I'm saying. And are you okay? Hold on, Sheikh. Who guarantees that Israel will not expand? Is it United States? Because look, they are in Suwaida, they are in Qawantara, they are there, in Syria, and the Golden Heights is gone. I mean, now Gaza could be. Allah knows what these guys, what's going to happen to Gaza. The fear that they might actually take Sinai. If the Gazans are let go, and then there is that scenario that they could actually expand from there too. But where is the stabilizing force, Sheikh? I mean, who? So either you're saying that Israel, the Arab regimes are guarantors for constant expansion of Israel.
No. But
it is. But it is expanding. You know it's expanding.
Yes, the guarantor for the expansion of Israel is number one, no agreement for a Middle East, some type of council that will overlook the geopolitical stability, which means no change in the geography, no change in politics. Number two, Israel wants to be the only dominant country.
Right.
That's why they are against the rivalry of Iran. That's why they are. Because internally, Israel always thinks that our borders should never be limited. We are a borderless country. We will not have a final border. That defies defies stability. So America now, and I remember when right after October 7th, when Biden and all the American, they allowed Israel to go full scale, in order to give Israel the chance. Look, get the borders you want now, because if you don't finalize your state now, you will always be very small, tiny little, just like Trump was saying, very thin.
Right.
Now, do whatever you can now, and that's why the war extended in Gaza. The war in Gaza could have ended 10 days after it started. Israel had made all the damages it wanted. If it was the damage, it's not the damage, it's the expansion. And Israel knows, if that Middle East stabilizing council comes into place, goodbye expansionism.
So that's what I'm saying, Sheikh. Look, so what Israel is doing so far is it's wherever it attacks, it's making the land unlivable. You cannot live there.
Yeah.
Even, for instance, what's happening in Gaza and what could happen. I mean, what are the? I guess what I'm asking is what are the guarantees that United States or Israel will not continue to expand, even if the Security Council does exist?
No, if the guarantee, if there's a Security Council, with one of the powers like Iran being a nuclear power, it means Israel will not be able to use its force as it can do today, because any attempt to change the geopolitics of the Middle East, once it's finalized, it means is an attack on the entire region, and the region here is controlled. It has to be controlled by these three countries. So it has to face Iran and Turkey right away with the support of Saudi Arabia financially. So this is very important. So now what America is thinking is there is no way in the world we can remove the expansionism from Israel as an ideology. But the only thing we can do is, okay, now let's reformat, redraw the geography. And I think they will redraw the geography of Israel before that council comes into place. And that geography probably will expand it's already expanded into part of Syria, which is the Golan Heights. It already expanded in most of the West Bank, physically on the ground. And it will probably expand in part of Gaza, if not all, but at least part of it. So that is the geography where Israel will be. Now, does Israel like that? Of course not. They accept it for now, for the time being, just like they did in 1948. For the time being, we do that. 67, they took more. And now in 82, they took more from Lebanon. And from Syria also, they took more. So that's the way they are thinking. America today at the point of saying, enough is enough. Let's draw your border once and for all. And that's every time you hear the word geopolitical stability. Geo means geography. So the geography will have to be reshaped. And America is reshaping the geography. In Syria, it's being reshaped. In Iraq, it was broken into two halves. Sudan was broken into two, and now it will be broken yet more. Libya is being divided. It's being redrawn, the geography. So the geography is being changed. And the politics means the regimes. Who is running the show in every one of the countries? That's what stability means. Israel doesn't like that. It has to be forced to like it. Now, if you come to think about it, a war in Gaza extends for almost 2 years, not being able for Israel to eliminate entire Gaza means there is a power that's allowed and enabled to make it almost like hell difficult to the Israelis and to pay very dear price, and they will not be able to achieve it until some reformation happens in the geography and the politics, and Israel has to abide. That's the whole point. And that's why America actually allows Israel to be dragged. And we know that when America wanted to finish the issue in Iraq, it took them less than few hours. They can't do that. But now Israel is expansionist. Okay, we'll show you that you will never be able to expand and change your geography and politics until and unless there is a final settlement. That's why these days they are talking a lot about where is the Palestinian state going to be, where are its borders. Everybody knows that Palestine is entire Palestine. Today they are talking about not even the West Bank or Gaza, where it would be, where are the borders going to be. And that is the core, one of the problems. As far as America is concerned, Israel is not the only one. What's happening in Sudan? Who is fueling the war in Sudan in both cases, in both sides?
Of course,
the same source. Why? Because Sudan is too big to handle. Libya is too big to handle. It's true that Libya doesn't have so many people, but remember, there was a time when the people from Chad, they were trying to migrate to Europe through Libya. A couple of million people were collected in Libya. These are from Chad. And Chad and Libyans, you cannot distinguish between the people. So Libya is too big to handle. That's why it's broken now, and it could be broken further. That's
Sheikh, let me draw one more scenario. Now, I mean, from what you're saying, obviously, it may not fit in that scenario, but there is a scenario people are thinking about. One, and this will be final. I know you're probably exhausted here, but look, Sheikh, one of, at least what I was reading is that can this war, whatever is costing Israel to protect itself right now, the Iron Dome, right? The constant missiles that are being hit to stop whatever Iran is sending. Sheikh, I mean, there's this theory that if, the Iranians, if China or Russia is supporting in any way, it could exhaust the ability the US has to continuously protect Israel. And that could mean China could think about what may happen to Taiwan. Is that meaning that the amount of the firepower that US is giving to Israel right now at a constant rate, if China decides to go after Taiwan, just take back Taiwan, can America do anything due to it being so busy in this region?
Well, as I mentioned, there is a difference between worldwide conflict.
I know. You're saying that the Chinese will not do this, but
or regional. Now, Taiwan is a regional issue, and that's what the United States. Taiwan is a regional issue, just like Philippines, like Korea. These are regionals, and China would be absolutely out of their historic reasoning or cultural reasoning to expand a regional conflict into world.
But Taiwan is their own.
Taiwan is their own, and that's why America draws a very thin line
in what it would do to protect Taiwan. But is there a possibility? Do you see that scenario that if China wants, I don't know if they think that far, or I mean, again, it's a scenario that could be drawn. There was a strategic assessment that was done in 2021. I remember. According to this, if Iran decides to go if there was a war like this, that they had this in mind, if there was a war, and let's say if the United States actually does enter war with China or with Iran, sorry, and Iran goes into asymmetrical war, meaning supporting proxies, guerrilla warfare type of thing, because let's say it becomes Afghanistan for the United States, because it wants to put boots on the table, just regime change, whatever. And according to that assessment, US would actually lose the war in the long term if it goes into if it allows it to go into this type of war. And that would only mean by the support of others as far as Iran is concerned. Iran can't sustain itself without those two powers. But is this a possibility, though, Sheikh, that China could take back Taiwan by keeping America busy in this region?
Look, if China finds out with their intelligence, surveillance, politics, that there is a time when the United States is disabled or does not have the capacity to go full scale to defend Taiwan, it will take it. There is no question about it. Absolutely. Now, usually superpowers like United States, like Soviet Union at the time, they usually calculate. They look at the hot areas. So let's say if I want to go into Iran, assume, now would that limit my capability of defending my other interest in Africa or Latin America or Taiwan or not?
Mm.
And America is not something that just makes their politics or policies in the White House by someone like Trump who doesn't even know what he is doing. They do it in the underground, in back doors, where those strategist people, they look at the whole map in front of them. They say, okay, if I go into Iran, what are the chances or possibilities that I will not be able to defend the other case, which I am also interested in? If they find that we will not be able to do that, except if we spend only, let's say, 10 days fighting Iran and then we are out, then they will do the 10 days and then they go back. If they think that, no, we can handle both or two or three, two regional conflicts and one world conflict, if they think they can do that, then they will do it. So trust me, we are not talking about some people who just take their decisions by focusing only on one entity. I don't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I'm not.
Sure. I mean, I understand.
I'm not a politician. I'm not a big political figure. I'm not part of any system. But I wouldn't do that. If I want even to do some investment, if I see, okay, I'm investing here, there is a big chance, or there is a chance for losing or winning. But if I lose here, then my other investment or my other business is going to lose as well. I'll say, no, I don't have interest in this. Unless I can look after two businesses at the same time, I will not do that. That's very simple. These are simple, I will call it political science 101, which I know they don't teach that, but it should be there. We people who practice political activities without having posts, we understand that. Imagine you have a whole State Department, a whole Central Intelligence Agency, a whole deep state for Council of Foreign Affairs, strategic institutes like Brookings, like Kissinger, like Nixon Institute, like Rand corporations like Rockefeller, and there are hundreds of them in the United States. All of them, they put the map in front of them and they come up with these scenarios. So what I'm saying here is America will not drag its own feet into a conflict, knowing that the other part which they are interested in is wide open for China or whoever. They wouldn't do that. until and unless they really want to give up Taiwan. So they make it as looks that, oh, okay, sorry, China took it over when we were busy somewhere else. So please, voters in America, don't blame us because we were trying to guarantee our interests in the Middle East, which is very vital to us. That's stupid, of course. That will not happen that way.
Subhanallah. Okay, I guess it's just so. Final thoughts on this, Sheikh. Yani, okay. I guess when he says 2 weeks, we'll give you 2 weeks. Fight it out. In these 2 weeks, Iranians are saying that look, we're not going to negotiate with anyone or even discuss with anyone unless the bombs stop. So that means there is going to be continuous bombing for the next 2 weeks. And then U.S., then who stops this? The U.S. stops this, or they just say, both of us are exhausted. We have to meet. And is there an exit strategy given to, some type of an honorable exit strategy given to Iran? Because look, here's the thing. If Israel comes out of this looking like a loser, which it could, this is the first time in 50, at least 25, 30 years where Israel has been hit like this. And it is asking it's asking the US to intervene or whatever it is. But is it okay for the US to make Israel look weak and say, hey, yeah, you could lose a war?
Well, what you are asking is there a face-saving type of scenario?
I mean, and look, if Israel comes out losing this war, that gives that's a whole different ballgame right now in the Middle East. That tells, first of all, I think for the Muslims are looking at this thing and saying, okay, the way Israel was built in the minds of the Muslim was this is undefeatable state, a state that is so powerful. It is, there's no way. Arabs have continuously lost to this state, this, that, and the other. And now you have Iran hitting from thousands of miles away. That means Pakistan could have done that. That means obviously Egypt could have done that. Jordan could have done that. Turkey could have done that. And then I don't know what to say about these Gulf states. But I mean, there's a lot of vulnerabilities that have been created for the state of Israel, Sheikh. And yes, they don't look good for Israel.
I agree, but that's part of the whole scenario is for the Israelis to realize that at the end of the day, the only guarantee for their continued existence, leave alone not talking about
live peacefully,
is to live peacefully and to agree with the big guys, so that you are part of the bigger game. In other words, that would show. As a result of these wars in Palestine, Gaza, and West Bank, as well as with Iran and Lebanon, etc., we have become a permanent member of a Security Council in the Middle East. That's a big win.
So that means I know I said final question, but does that mean Sheikh, look, so no more United Nations, no more none of these organizations need to exist after this, or what?
No, they do
because look, Iran is part
world.
of the United Nations, and it doesn't. Nobody cares.
No. There is the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council. This is for world politics.
Okay.
Now,
but then regionals, you're saying these are institutions for regions,
and that is part, in my opinion, part of the change in some of the world order organizations that were created at the end of the Second World War. This is a new thinking in the American mentality. So those hot regions, like the Indo-Pakistani one, that's a hot region, the Middle East, let's find a stabilizing entity, call it Security Council, call it alliance, call it consortium, that can control the stability locally. in the
I mean,
region.
Sheikh, look,
Uh,
geopolitics, you're talking about Iran, Pakistan, India, Russia,
no,
China.
no.
I know what you're saying, but I'm saying to you, you're talking about a region. If Iran gets its nuclear power, neighbors that live next to each other, all of them will have nuclear powers. They're all nuclear powers. Iran, India, Pakistan, Russia, China. I mean,
So that means, and that is part of the politics against the nuclear usage. The only guarantee not to use nuclear power is to know that your neighbor can hit you as well. So it threatens your own existence, and that's why America and the Soviet Union had to have the agreement, despite the fact that they were on opposite sides by all means, ideological, political ambitions. That's why they came to the agreement that I cannot hit you nuclear, you cannot hit me nuclear. Otherwise, we both destroy ourselves. That's the whole idea of the zero balance or the zero usage of nuclear. Now, when America was the only country that had the nuclear, it did not even blink an eye to hit Japan with two of them.
Yeah.
Not for a second. But after 1950 some, I think 56, when the Soviets declared that they already have a nuclear bomb, from that time on, both America and the Soviets, they were looking for some way, face saving, in order to come to the zero option in military work. And they created what they call the Cold War. The whole notion of a Cold War is we are rivals, we fight, we struggle, we compete, but zero militancy. It's cold. That's what a Cold War means.
So now, in this scenario here, when it comes to Iran and Israel, what would be the face-saving event?
The face-saving event is that both Iran and Israel both would claim we made some penetration, we did some hit, we responded, we killed so many, we destroyed some. Each one will start counting what they have done in order to convince their own people that we have done everything that's face-saving. And that's why the war is. And that's when I started saying, I made the analogy with the Egypt-Israel war in 1973. That was a face-saving for both. Israel did not want to have a peace with Egypt because they always thought that they can expand and Egypt has to be always under check. Egypt also thought that we are big enough, we have the support of Soviet Union, we have some weapons, we don't care about Israel. So then they had a war. And the war started, remember, Egypt started the war. And they were able to march through almost to the heart of Israel. And then, with the help of the United States, directly, gave Israel the ability to counterattack. So both now are even. We penetrated part of Israel. Israel was able to stop our army and to be almost equal. So what's next now? When Sadat comes and says, "Oh, now I am ready to sign a treaty," and Menachem Begin says, "Okay, I will sign the treaty too." So they both go to Camp David and sign the treaty. Why? Because there was a war that convinced that Sadat was able to use in front of his people that no one can stop me making peace because I did fight and I was able to crush the Israelis. That was his excuse.
So, Sheikh, two weeks. Here's the thing: for 2 weeks is to what? Just go out, crush each other. Just do whatever. I mean,
do whatever it takes for you to convince your own people and to have a story to tell.
I mean,
And then
that
after
kind of
that,
destruction for Israel. What? So now United States uses the Arab money to rebuild Israel. Is that what will happen?
oh, the Arab money is there to build anything that America wants to build. These guys
No, I'm just
are
trying to
doing
figure out. I
it.
mean, all this damage in Tel Aviv. I guess
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what will happen. They will just use the Arab money. Uh, wow.
Look,
Okay.
I will tell you how the Israelis will use the Arab money even more than that. And you'll, if we stay, if I stay in this world alive, I'm not on the other side. I will remind you and remind the people that one day, when the world and the region establishes an entity called Palestinian state, wherever that could be.
Yeah.
Could be in Ramallah, could be in Ariha, could be in Jordan, anywhere. A Palestinian state recognized by the United Nations and blah, blah, blah. From that time on, Israel will charge the Arab states billions and billions and billions of dollars for the fact that these Arabs as they call them, Palestinians, they used to live in a country called Israel. We called it Israel, but it was we called it Palestine. But now you guys, you understand that's not Palestine. This is Palestine, your state, by your own recognition, by all the Arabs sign and say yes, this is Palestinian state, and the Palestinians will be demonstrating and dancing and celebrating when the United Nations and the Security Council accepts and recognizes a new country called Palestinian state, accepted as member of the United Nations. From that time on, Israel will be charging every Palestinian who ever lived in Palestine, what we call it Palestine, because they will come and say, you used to call it Palestine, but it was our land by your own recognition. So Israel doesn't have a problem with this. Until today, they are charging the Germans for something that they claim it happened. They claim the third or fourth generation of the Germans. They charge them, continue to charge them until today. Every year they have to pay for that. You are talking about a people that can argue or argued with God, Allah Azza wa Jal. They are who gave them, who blessed them, who made them at one point of time the best nation. At one point of time, this was the chosen. Yeah, and they argued with him a lot, and they continue to demand. This is the world is dealing with an entity that it will continue to cause problems and to charge people for acts, whether they did or they did not. It's like a lawyer who has the capability of twisting the mind of the judge.
Yeah, subhanallah. Khair. And because I was thinking, I mean, I guess the last thing I was just thinking that America could, if they do use that bunker buster, but I guess you're saying that no, they want a nuclear Iran, and hence this to balance the region and then balance. But Israel is a hard. Let's see how this goes, Sheikh. This is a wait and see in game.
Yeah. The most complex element in this whole puzzle is Israel. The most complex element for many reasons.
I mean, it's existential. It has to. It's trying to exist.
True.
And that's for Iran, it can get into a long game if it needs to. I mean, it could be. It's 90 million people. If they decide, let's say, to fight till the last man, you're talking years. Israel has 6 million people, and half of them want to run away. So it's they're running away to Greece, and they're running away through Sharm el-Sheikh. I heard to Egypt, and the Muslims people could not enter, begging them to enter Gaza, but they're getting $10 tickets to Egypt.
That's part of the puzzle. But now, before you go, I just want to, if I want to do a final statement. Look, this whole issue of a stable Middle East, there are many, many caveats and reasons, but the most important reason, the most important objective is to make sure that this Middle East will not breed a new ideological state that can bring something absolutely different and more sophisticated than whatever exists today. And that is what remember, Netanyahu the other day, he mentioned that we have to make sure that an Islamic state or Khilafah will not come.
He mentioned it 3-4 different times in different scenarios.
Blinken, the former Secretary of State, when the guys came from Aleppo, from Idlib, the Syrians, they were marching toward Damascus. His first statement was, anything is acceptable except rise of Khilafah.
Right. No, yeah.
It was his, and it's on the record. So the idea here is, at the end of the day, whether it's Israel or Iran or Turkey or even Saudi Arabia or the others, if they have any grievance against this new policy of the United States, the one thing that unites them all and will make them all accept this so-called the new stability form is the fact that it is, from their perspective, the only guarantee for stopping and preventing the rise of this Khilafah state or Islamic state. That's why they all agree on this. Compared to all other interests, this is the most vital interest to make sure that this Islamic state does not come up. And the only place that where this Islamic state can emerge one more time is this region, the Middle East. Is that Middle East? Yes, Islam is very big and strong in Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, blah, blah, blah. It's all there. But those entities, the so-called different ethnicities within the Middle East can be united, and they can come up strong as one ummah under Islam without any trouble. The only thing that prevents that from happening is the current regimes trying to stop it. But that cannot be final, which means Islam can rise up, and it will. And they know it will. So they want someone to be able to take care of that once it rises up. See, America, Britain, France, Russia, China, all of them, they understand and they know that this area is able to breed Islam one more time. It's a fact. They cannot. In fact, this is what's his name? The one who wrote the article, an idea whose time has come. You remember so they understand that. But so when this idea,
you're talking about Brzezinski, I think. No, never mind.
No, not Brzezinski. I'm talking about the one who used to be with the CNN, and once he ran for president. I remember I always has his name. I just forgot him. When he said, if you look him up, an idea whose time has come, talking about Islam, that you cannot stop Islam from rising, but you should be able to treat it once it comes, suppress it or eliminate it after it comes. So from their perspective, there is no way in the world you can prevent Islam from coming up from this area in particular. You can't. And therefore, we have to deal with it once it comes to see how we can fight it and stop it. We need a Security Council. We need an alliance from top 3 countries, all of them, all of these 3, have an interest, have a vital interest in making sure that Islam does not rise again as a state and as a Khilafah and as a power. all of them. These three in particular, Israel, Iran, and Turkey. As states, I'm not talking about people. These states, they're powerful. Turkey is a NATO country. Iran is becoming nuclear. Israel is Israel. We know what it is. So that's why they did not include with them Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Jordan or Algeria or Morocco or any of these can actually stop the act of this council at some point. So they want to make sure that the ones who are in charge, each and every one of them has an interest in this issue. And that is what we need to understand. So it's beyond the so-called geographic stability or the expansion of Israel or not. All these can be accommodated. The only thing that cannot be accommodated is my own beloved state to rise up again. That's what they all agree on.
All right, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair.
And the rest is up to us how we will handle that. Not only us, we have to rely on much more powerful entity than the council or the one who establishes the council. And we
that
will.
is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the clarity to see things the way they are, Sheikh. I mean, a lot is happening, a lot is going to happen. In many ways, every country is turning completely transactional. I mean, this could be a whole different discussion also, ideology versus transactional, because you look at India, you look at Pakistan, everybody's just it's just transactions taking place. And of course, there are values behind those transactions, but it just looks like nations have lost even majority of the nations don't even have serious ideological backgrounds to handle what's happening. It's just one, and because of that one being the way it is, it has something to offer. So it's now basically moving chess pieces around as if the world belongs to them. And at this point, unfortunately, at least geopolitically, they are doing what they're doing. All right, Abu Talha, inshallah, this is let's have another discussion in 2 weeks and see where we belong, and your analysis will be tested with all of this happening, inshallah.
Yeah.
All right, Sheikh.
It's analysis. That's what we think. We could be right, we could be wrong. We hope that we will be wrong. Nothing like this happens.
Yeah, inshallah. All right, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.